thanksgiving. I raise my hands in worship, and I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. Say one more time. I bow my head to a throne and say it's all for you. You are worthy, yeah. You are worthy, yeah. To receive the praise and glory. To receive the praise and glory. To receive the praise and glory. He is my God and he's holy. Yeah. Well, he always comes through with appreciation. I raise my hands in worship. And I bow my head before your throne. I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. 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 Come on, somebody give him worship. With appreciation. With appreciation. I raise my hands in worship. Then I bow my head before you. I bow my head to a throne. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. Appreciate. It's all you. Lord, I love before you. You say it's all for you. It's all for you. Appreciate. It's all for you. Lord, I love before you. Say it's all for you. With appreciation, I raise my hands in worship. Then I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. I say it's all for you. With appreciation, I raise my hand in worship. Then I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. I say it's all for you. With appreciation, I raise my hands in worship, then I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. I say it's all for you. I bow my head before your throne. Bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. I bow my head before your throne and say it's all for you. I bow my head before your throne. They say it's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. Everything I have, it's all for you.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode with myself and Jay. Look, we're talking to you guys about another wonderful, amazing topic. We're breaking down we can't stop having sex before marriage. I know. Before you get onto me, you know what I'm saying to you, someone's gonna say, listen, I'm not watching what you do. I'm not focused on what you lot are doing over there, okay? So if you feel triggered by the title, don't be. Okay, all right. It's not personal, but it's personal. You get me? But no, all jokes aside, welcome back. We're having a great conversation, myself and Jay, and we are breaking down another relational topic, something that comes up quite a lot, especially of those who are in Christian dating spaces about this topic. And actually, we do have a clip to begin it, so I will talk about that and show you that in a few seconds. But let me introduce my co-host, Jay Anderson. Master, talk to them. Who are you? Let them know a little bit about yourself.
Yes, Jay Anderson. Some of you know. Listen, me and Kojo were boys. We have these conversations outside of this context, so we're bringing these, just for you guys, just to listen in. Because as much as for a lot of people, they've had these conversations, they've heard these conversations, there's still issues. There's still people who need to hear what we have to say, but also people that need these discussions on a daily basis. It's still a thing, man. We've been let's just say, as my boy says, in Egypt before. We've let the actions take control. So there's an understanding that comes with it. It's not just about doing it or how we've been conditioned. So this is kind of what we stand for. As I said, my name is Jay Anderson. I've got a men's ministry, Kingdom Need of God, Kingdom Need of Greatness. I keep saying I'm building, but it's because I've just been so busy. I haven't really done much with it. But we're going, do you know what I mean? There's so much to come from us. So happy to be here, my bro. How are you?
Bro, I'm good, man. Listen, we're building, like you said, bro. We're building ahead of steam, and we're doing great things. So as we have these conversations, they're very much important. They're foundational conversations, because when we move on to bigger and better things, when they finally see the podcast and everything like that in the future, fam, you can say that we started from here. You get what I'm saying to you? You know what I mean? Yeah, we didn't wait for the applause. We just went ahead and did what we got to do. Okay, so today's topic, obviously, the topic is episode 7. Is we can't stop having sex. So what do we actually do? I got a clip because this was obviously doing rounds on the internet, but obviously I reviewed this because it was a recent Love Is Blind episode between Joseph and Chevanique. And I want to play this conversation, which links beautifully into this topic. Here we go.
So I wanted to ask, what do you feel about having sex before marriage? Like, what?
Look at my.
So I wanted to ask, what do you feel about having sex before marriage? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I would always want to have sex before marriage.
Why is that?
I love sex. I do.
Oh, okay.
I really am a please.
Brother, it's a strong start. Yeah?
There's more context there, obviously, because they're Christians. This is how they announce themselves. But yeah, but go on.
I mean, listen, look, it is one of those conversations that within Christendom is very difficult. I wouldn't say difficult to have, but it is a interesting topic to talk about, because I do feel like sometimes as believers, right, we some people might say, I'm not having sex before marriage, and end up having sex before marriage. Some people are going to say, I am going to do it, and they're going to do it. So it becomes tricky, right? So the reality is, we're not trying to shame anybody. What we're trying to get people to understand, though, is the maybe explain why this is a big deal, why we want to be able to stay in a place of not having sex before marriage, and the implications around it, practical or spiritual, however you want to take it. But I do think it's important to have these conversations. Like when that conversation happened, I wasn't thinking, oh, Joseph and Chevanique are not Christians. I was just thinking that the revelation hasn't caught on to you yet. You haven't fully caught onto that revelation just yet. And that's not to say if anybody fell, we're cascading you. No, what I'm saying is that the posture of position, right? That when your posture is, I'm going to have sex before marriage, that's a different posture to, actually, I don't want to do it, and then I ended up falling. That's a conversation about boundaries and maybe not putting best practice in place. But when you're saying, I want to have sex before marriage, that's not boundaries at that point. That is a posture of truth that we are saying that we don't necessarily agree with the word at this point in time of our life. That doesn't mean you're not a Christian. It just means you don't agree with this sentiment of the word in your type of in your life as of now, which a lot of us have different things in that area where we don't conform to Christ. So it's not a judgment, but it isn't necessary to have that conversation. From your perspective, bro, maybe you can take it from here. What was your thoughts, I guess, to that conversation? And what's your thoughts generally in regards to when they talk about no sex before marriage, and then you hear someone say this? What was your thought process?
My thoughts are always looking at the individual first. Is why are they saying that specifically? That I'm not someone, because obviously we've had a life before giving my life to Christ, right? So I'm not someone who passes judgment straight away. Oh, you can't. It's like, why are you saying that specifically? And I can't even remember his context. I feel like, is he a pastor's son, or I don't even remember what the context of his upbringing was. But that's the question I always ask. Why for you? And I remember in the transition period of giving my life to Christ, I was with a particular lady. Obviously, she wasn't Christian. That's not how we met. I wasn't a Christian then, but it was one of those relationships that, people sometimes we're in as we're coming to Christ, and we got to evaluate whether we should stay in. I remember really talking to her about the next journey I wanted to be on, etc. I wasn't trying to do it for her, I wasn't trying to do it for anyone else. It was literally just something I felt I needed to do. And I remember she saying to me, and I'll say it in words, do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. You see the Bible? Yeah. Literally like this, I just don't believe in not having sex before marriage. I just don't believe in that. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I remember at the time, because she wanted to keep me, she wanted to get baptized too. So when you're talking about heart posture, I didn't. And by the way, she grew up in Christ, right? It's just that it wasn't a lifestyle that she ever had, if that makes sense. But this is what I began to understand at the time. I'm not condemning her for that thought process. It's why she's saying that, and it was simple, because sex to her was a way for her to feel loved, because of whatever was going on in her life. It was just the normal lifestyle that she was part of throughout her whole life. And as a man, I was introduced to her as that. That's how we started. So of course, now I'm just choosing to take that away. I appreciate the fact that she's being open and honest with me, but I just understood simply where she's coming from. And it's the same way like our brother here, Joseph. Where is he coming from? And as for those who are watching Love is Blind, as as he speaks, as you get to know him, you understand what there's just traumas that are going on in his life, right? So if if his lifestyle in Christ is not the strongest point in his life, the question is why. And this is what I usually hear. It's okay, so why are you making those decisions? Why has that become either an idol, or why is that something that you need 1000%? You can't cope with it, you can't function without it. That's how I look at that situation. And then we have a conversation from there. Because I feel like the whole conversation around it's not what God wants, or we're condemning people, it doesn't work. It causes problems because we all been out here having it anyway. So let's have a real conversation about why do you think that way? Like, why does your body respond? And it's key. I know it's not technically part of this conversation, but it's adjoined. There was a lot of Christian men and Christian women who even get into these relationships or marriage, and because of the sex aspect and what they get from it, they're cheating. So it's a great conversation to have. Is why is it so important for you to have now, going into it? Why is it something you must do beforehand? That's how I look here, bro.
No, bro, definitely hit that 100% as well. And I think it's the heart posture is really important as well. I think for a lot of people, because when the revelation finally catches up with you, and what I mean by revelation is when something reveals itself to you as the truth, only then can the behavior align with the truth, right? And the actions align with it, right? So you're not trying to teeter or trying to tiptoe on the truth. You're really trying to stay in alignment. And I think I believe that also there's a larger indication that there's a larger conversation that needs to be had, that if one cannot stay away from sex, you've got probably a boundary issue. But number two, also, do we have an emotional issue?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also is very important for our generation, because in 2026, people can get divorced at a drop of a hat. This ain't the 1900s. You know what I mean? So you ain't going to stick it out just because you have to. This is 2026. As soon as you find out this is not one for you, people are quitting. And we can say rightly or wrongly, so whichever way, it doesn't really make a difference. So I think the way you are entering into something is very important. And as somebody who has been on the other side of the track, where it's like, I said I won't do it, but I knew in the back of my mind, my boundaries weren't great, and I'm going to do it, to now being in a place where I'm like, bro, I really don't want to do it. Like, I really don't. Not just because I'm thinking about how it will impact the other person. I'm thinking about how it impacts me. It impacts me, it impacts my leadership, it impacts my spiritual alignment with God. The way that I hear God changes. I'm struggling to hear him correctly. I can't trust if I'm hearing what I'm hearing from him. Do you know what I'm saying to you? It affects my dreams. Bro, like the moment you become sensitive and allow yourself to allow the Lord to lead, you don't want to do some of these behaviors, because you actually see the effects happening to you directly. Not only does it affect your marriage or future marriage, it then affects wider community. So the wider community that can end up being impacted by this is, if you haven't got a grip on this particular behavior, the boundaries and the lustful aspect, it starts to spill out into other areas. And we have recently, for the last 2 or 3 years, had so many male pastors be exposed for sexual deeds. and it's coming from the lack of discipline in that area. Now, that's not the only reason, of course. If you're in a high position, you're going to be attacked. But the reality is, a lot of this stuff is a lack of discipline. And so when you don't do that discipline in a single season, when you're now getting into a marriage season, it is much more easier to cartel and perform in ways that you were performing in the singledom, because you haven't actually got the revelation. You haven't transformed your mind and conformed it. So it's easier to fall into some of those patterns. Especially as somebody who's been in Egypt, I can tell you it's very easy to fall into those patterns if you don't transform the mind. So yeah, I want to share that.
Oh, I love that, bro, because I've recently come into an understanding, like using the same example. For those people, I know there's always going to be a case where someone can have one lifestyle and all of a sudden lives put them into something else. There's always an exception. But I'm of the opinion they've always been that way. So in this case, they've always, like you said, bro, they've always had a discipline issues. Just you've never known about it. And often maybe marriage is the mask. Okay, now I can, do it whenever I want. It's going to amplify those issues, right? So this is one thing that we know. So this is why, for me, I guess we're going to talk about it. The discipline aspect is, we understand it does feel good. We understand why you want to have it. We understand that, when that time comes, your legs be shaking, your knees be shaking, you're ready. We get all that, right? But one of the things I said you love, bro, is that you became a man who said, you know what? No. What I stand to lose, or if anything, what I am not gaining by doing this is not worth it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm saying it from that point of view, because some people can just do it and feel cool. Life gets on, they're doing okay. But there's a greater aspect to you as a man, greater aspect to you as a human being. That even if you're not technically losing something right there and then, there is so much to gain from choosing a life that doesn't engage in just reckless behavior in general. And I'm with you on that, bro, because as you know, I did that at I think at 25, I made that decision. I wasn't even a Christian yet, but at 25, I said, I don't even want to do this no more. Like, how much more can you do? And bearing in mind, I'm seeing some of my friends and some people that I know still continue into their 30s, and I'm looking at their lifestyles and thinking, this is not who I want to be. Like, I want to get the understanding now, get the understanding today. And therefore, it was easier when, let's say, was easier before I got married, and it was easier even when I got divorced, right? When I had other Christian friends saying to me, yo, Jay, if that was me that went through what you went through, I would be doing madness. I want to be reckless and all that type of stuff. And I'm looking at them thinking, I don't even have anything in me that even wants to behave like that. Nothing. Like, I get it. Cool. Ladies were throwing them. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at thinking, like, this Satan is wicked, Like, why is the volume turned up? What's going on? But for me, I was so relaxed because I still had agency over myself to say no. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I love the fact that I can say that. I love the fact that I can genuinely say, no one can come and say, during my single season, during my divorce season, I was moving mad. And that's because of the discipline aspect. I'm not saying I'm perfect or a perfect Christian. It was just that at that point in time, I understood, not necessarily, part of it was what I was going to lose. And I felt like if I definitely went into Egypt, I'm coming back with babies, that's how I felt. But also what I was looking to gain, I knew I wouldn't be able to gain that by having that lifestyle. And that's simply because, how am I praying to God? How am I trying to maneuver in a particular way? But yet I'm purposefully taking something that he made for covenant and using it for my own purpose, literally. And especially with people who I don't even care about. Do you know what I mean? Any woman that come during that time, I knew I'm going to marry them. So why am I? Do you know what I mean? And I said, this is how I was back in the day, before Christ. As I'm in Christ now, I get it. The temptation, the pull is strong. But let me stick to the discipline. Let me stick to the focus, because whatever I stand to gain in the future is going to be so much greater. That's how I saw it, man.
No, actually, 100%, bro. And I said on the video breakdown that I did with the Joseph situation that it is not that you can't reach your destination if you have sex before marriage. It is in what state will you reach your destination? Do you get? And that's the biggest issue. I remember I was thinking about it. I played games like GTA, and you play those kind of games, right? And there's always that one mission where you went to steal a car, and you have to drive the car to the destination. In between stealing the car and driving it to the destination, you can't get the car mashed up.
Yeah.
Right? Because the less scratches and everything it's got, the more money you got. Right? So in essence, that is the example of what I mean by in what state will you reach the destination, right? So many people can get it to the end, and you'll find yourself at Judgment Day happy. We'll be all raising our hands, but the things that we had to lose in between that period of time, or the things that we may not gain in between that time because of the way that we handled the middle part of the journey, is really important. So. And again, I know how tough it can be because again, I've lived that lifestyle, right? And so the conformity here is the surrendering to the Holy Spirit. We're talking from a Christian perspective, right? So the conformity to want to surrender to a lifestyle where you say, I don't want to be out here in these streets. I don't want to be sexing my partner before it's marriage. I want to be able to abstain and really be able to focus. Let me tell you a few things what could happen to you, okay? All right? Whether you're in the streets or whether you're in the sheets in your house, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter if it's 5 gal or 1 gal. The fact that you are here fornicating before it's time means that certain consequences can be more liable to happen, right?
Wow.
So you know what I mean. The biggest thing is what you kind of said as well, which is the ability to say no is one of the most powerful things I think as men we can do. And you will find there is another fight that will even happen once you start saying no.
Yeah.
You will start realizing that as you've said no, people are saying yes. What do you mean you're telling me no? If you know the things that I encountered, I'm sure you know the same thing for you, Jay. The moment I began to say no is the moment I started to see that people are grabbing your jersey, telling you, what do you mean no?
Yes.
How can you tell me no? You're now seeing the opposite sex they're hounding you. So I'm telling you, there's another fight that happens. So I'm not saying that you're free. I'm not saying that you're free, but what I'm telling you is you need to start getting to a place where you can actually say no. And it's because of the fact that for you, one of the first points, and I'm sure we can do many, but the first point for me is, in what state do you want to get to that destination? In what state? Do you want to be battered and bruised? Or do you want to be like, you know what, Lord, you didn't have to drag me. I came along. And actually, the things you told me to avoid, I avoided them so that I didn't have to go through certain other alternative routes before I was rerouted back onto the path that you've asked me for. Because many of us have gone on reroutes. So, yeah. Go for it, Jay.
Even from a ministry point of view, or in fact, let me even not speak Christianese. Even from the point of view of like we're giving men advice, we're saying, listen, we've got the experience, we've got the understanding. The whole thing about rerouting, that's what I did where I ended up getting married in the first place at that point in time. So I went a different way than where God was telling me. However, in falling back into alignment, in my mindset was also, I can't have this ministry but still be in that lifestyle. It doesn't make sense. Because I'm joking with them, I'm talking to them about something I'm still in. That's disingenuous, but there's something powerful in being able to like, I'm one of you, you're one of me, we're the same. But I'm the example, you're the example of being able to say no and just make a different decision, because you can. You know what I mean? There's so much of our friends now who are looking back and saying, you know what, I see it. I see what that lifestyle did. I see what that lifestyle, was causing. I see my struggles every time I'm fueling it. Because one of the things that you were speaking, I was thinking is that the moment you step into it, it's addictive, right? You just can't stop. And that's the title today. We can't stop having sex. What do we do? It's not necessarily about someone who you're planning on marrying. It's also someone who I said, you even know deep down, hey, this one, do you see this person? I can't see you in my future, but for some reason, I can't stop. I just can't stop. We've been there. You just think to yourself, what is controlling you right now? You know, every moment of this, the consequence could be maybe a baby. The consequence is also going to be maybe a broken heart, whatever the case may be. But what is literally controlling you at this moment in time? That is the struggle. So for me, it wasn't just about saying, yes, I'm Jason. It's righteous. No. It was understanding, if anything, what I'm fleeing from. that moment of satisfaction, what's going to follow me? Because, like you said, bro, I knew where God was taking me. I knew what was in the future. But the state I wanted to be in was not one who, after going through what I'm going through, I then wanted to add more baggage. No, 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 no. I can't. I said, nah, I need to be free, honestly. Free. And the context here is, before my now wife, the last person I slept with was my ex-wife. There was no one in between. Literally no one in between. Not even an almost. Not even a schedule, and then last minute I said, you know what, and blah blah blah. Nah, literally, it was just door to door.
It's a flex.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's just stress free, bro. Like, I think that's even the first time I've even said that. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever said that online, bro.
It's a
But
flex.
it's stress free, bro. Stress free, and that to me is what it is. And I would love to go over it again. I would love to say it's because of God, it's because, I'm a man of God and a Christian. There is those aspects there, but we're having a real conversation, and it's because as a human being, I said, I know what's gonna come. I've been there too many times. How many times? How many times I won't do it? So why am I gonna go back now? Because by the time I'm ready to come back, woo, I know what I'm coming back with. I was convinced. No one could tell me. I was convinced. It wasn't even a maybe. I know what I'm coming back with. So I said, I'm not even gonna entertain. I'm fleeing.
No, bro, listen, and it's powerful. And I'll be a little bit vulnerable here and expose myself a little bit, you know what I'm saying, too, because obviously for me it's been about a year or a year and a half, almost 2 years, not having intercourse with anybody, but I always straddle the line. Flirting, touching, maybe not like bad touching, but I'm saying like it's always a bit of flirting, there's always a bit of physicality going on. There's always someone I'm like, want to draw into the game, I like to call it, right? And even that, right? After a while, you already know, Jay, you know the situation, but even certain situations that happen because you may feel comfortable in that space of I'm just a little bit of a flirt. Someone might say I'm a natural flirt. Someone might say you're a natural flirt. There's no such thing, but I'm just a natural flirt, right? And so then you end up in situations where even if you're not sleeping with anybody, there are people that are catching feelings. This you can't get away from the indiscretions and the consequences of behaviors, even if you're not sleeping with somebody. The mere fact that you can even be flirting with people are like taking it seriously. You know what I'm saying? People actually they'll take your flirtation very seriously. So then now you got to have a conversation. Now you got to talk to somebody. Now you got to tell them, listen, that's not what I'm on. Now you got to tell them, listen, nah, I was just playing, right? So all of a sudden, that playfulness now becomes something that becomes a hindrance. So this is where we're saying about where we're saying that we of course we're talking about the full spectrum in terms of sleeping with somebody, but if we really deep there's a whole spectrum of the sensual sexual behaviors. You want to stay away from them because of the fact that it induces people's thoughts and ideas into a particular space. And so when you do those things, other person's like responding. If they're not careful, they're responding as if it's a legitimate claim to them or a legitimate offer to them. So when they're taking it on board, they're like, oh, I thought you were really trying to, and you're like, oh, no, that was not. So even if you're not sleeping with somebody, that is another area that people need to work on too. So again, this comes back to what I said about boundaries. So these are all things that we're trying to work to make sure that we're good at. And that isn't even about necessarily the Lord. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even saying that's, because I'm trying to keep myself sensitive. That was because it actually affects your fellow man. Do you see what I'm saying to you? That's why we're now having conversations. And do you know what's so funny? We will have these conversations. I have clients that talk to me about these situations. And of course, most of my clients are women, so this is where it's going to be slightly biased in terms of the weight of it, right? But too many times when I hear the wife come to tell me, so what do I do about my husband who's just too flirtatious with other women? And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, what's going on the other side? And then I realize, if they're doing those things, it's because in the single season, they did not work on the discipline of changing behaviors. You see, I was listening to preaching this morning for Joshua Salmon, and it reminded me of the conversation that we had on TikTok a couple of weeks ago, where I said that sometimes there are people who are believers, but they've not allowed the Holy Spirit to touch that part of their life. It's like, God, touch everywhere else, just don't touch that area, right? And so the area that the Holy Spirit can't touch, that you're saying to him, the door is shut, right, is a character issue usually. So the character part that you haven't fixed up. So many men maybe haven't allowed the Holy Spirit to speak to them in that area. And I'm a testimony of that. I think I did a video when my first 2 years of doing TikTok, YouTube. One of my first videos was talking about how I said God was working me around lust, and it was very difficult because I used to say a lot of innuendos, right? And then that's the area I said, well, it got to a certain point. I said, yeah, let's not transform that anymore. Transform everything else, but leave that area for me, right? And now you see where I am. A couple of years down, it didn't happen straight away. It took 4 or 5 years before I end up in Egypt. So this is what happens, that you don't sort this out in single season. You might be good for the first 5 years. Then something happens. Maybe she gets pregnant. Maybe she's not giving you the same attention. Maybe she's not talking to you the same way. Maybe you guys had a massive fight you never usually had. Maybe she says something that she's never said before. And now you didn't do the training. The docket that's in your pocket is missing that training card. What happens then? Then life goes, well, you can't skip to the next level without passing that training. So we're going to put you right back there. Now you're in that training. And if you fail it there, it has greater consequences because you're married. Not because, you know what I mean? If you're single, the consequences are still can be grave, but you're single. So these are the things that can happen when we don't yield to the Holy Spirit kind of training us and putting us on curriculum and learning those things as well. So yeah, just want to go for that.
To be fair, and we know people struggling with that literally as we speak. Literally as we speak, we know people struggling with that. And one of the, in most of those cases, what I kind of boiled it down to is, as you reiterated, what was happening in the single season was a lack of discipline around that specific thing. They never changed. Again, they just got married, but they never actually changed. So marriage, and I think this is one of the points, but that's right, one of the points was sex can mask incompatibility. But especially in Christendom, being married and everything that comes with that can also contribute to that mask as well. Because ultimately, you're not really satisfied. Ultimately, you're not really happy. Ultimately, what's going on inside of you hasn't really been dealt with. So it was easy to use sex when you were single. It's now not as easy to use now that you're married, because things happen. You know, no, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, your sex life with that person is not going to be the same. But if you haven't dealt with those things that you need to deal with inside of you, they will come out to play. And the consequence is even greater at that stage. So, do you know what I mean? So this is not just a conversation about I meet someone, we're doing it, we're falling into temptation, it's hard. We can have that conversation. We can talk about the practical things that we can do to kind of stay away from it, etc. But also let's deal with the fact that it may not just be a physical attraction thing. There could be things going on with you that mean that the idea of stopping that is almost like you're losing a part of yourself. You're losing something that's making you feel a certain way. What is that? Trust me, even in the Christendom, in fact, even in different faiths who also say when it comes to sex before marriage is not a thing, as human beings, either what's put onto us or what we engage in, there is so much that comes with our decision making and why we do things. And like you're saying, bro, even when we say, do you know what, I'm at a point now where I can say no, expect the temptation to, expect the unexpected, if you like. I'll give you a story, right? I think I'll give you the story like in different ways, but when I gave my life to Christ, I remember speaking to one particular lady who I had history with. Now, she was a heavy flirt as well. Heavy flirt, just automatic. So I remember speaking to her, telling her, giving my life to Christ, etc. She said, yeah, it's all good, etc. So when am I seeing you? And I was like, I actually don't want to see you because you're not actually a friend. Like, look at all the stuff, you're just flirting with me now. What are you going to do if we link up, if we talk? What, are you just going to say, oh, hi friend, and that's it? And it's like, no. And at that point in time, obviously I had just given my life to Christ, so I wasn't going to say I was the strongest at what I needed to be stronger at in the first place. So I said to her, I'm not meeting you. It's not happening. Maybe 6 months, 7 months, and literally we had just started speaking again after not speaking for 2 hours. When I say speaking, I don't mean to date. I mean just literally having conversations. And then she said to me, do you know what? I'm not having any friends that I don't see at least every couple months. And I was like, I know you have friends you don't see that regularly. But the whole point was is because she had an agenda behind it. Me saying now I'm a Christian was also in the hope of me seeing her differently, which then brings me to my second point. Another lady who I had history with, somehow we got talking again. And I remember this day because she randomly messaged me on Facebook, and I said, okay. I was blocked at this time because of our history, because I didn't really want a relationship or nothing like that. But I just started talking normally, said this is who I am now, etc. She was like, oh, okay, cool. So, you know, I've always had a soft spot for you. I was like, oh, here we go, etc. And then she started saying, you know, why don't we go back to our old arrangement? I was like, no, that's not what I want. That's that. I'm not interested in that. Now, the missing context is before we got to this conversation, she was telling me that she was seeing one guy. So after I said no, she said, I'm going to call you back a second. She put the phone down, called me back after like 2 hours and said, okay, I've done it. I said, done what? Basically, she had called up the guy and ended whatever they was doing, it thinking that's what I actually cared about. And I remember thinking, don't you listen? But then I remember thinking, but when you're now taking that new step in life, people see it as a challenge. People see it as like they're the special one that can overcome that and get you to, you know, they don't see it as you're betraying yourself, you're betraying your new journey. They see it as, oh, I'm getting this new one, this new person, and they're doing it just for me. They're going to see me differently. And then, cut a long story short, it then got around to me saying, and I'll hold my hand up for this, me saying, you shouldn't even have that viewpoint, because even if we was just doing it, I wouldn't see you as someone I want to marry in the first place. She didn't like that. But I was just being honest. But she didn't like that. She hated, oh gosh. She was like, what? So I knew at that point, I got to her. So long story short, maybe a couple of weeks later, she posted one very crazy picture on Instagram. Don't ask me why. I thought, oh, there's no reason why I should have said anything. But I told her, come on, man, what about your son? Like, come on, think about it. She switched. Now you've done it now. And she blocked me. I know all that was really because of what she was carrying. It's because of the rejection that I gave her. I knew like that it was just a matter of time, right? But it then made me think, hold on, in the space of a week or two, how have these two people just popped up? And there was a third one. Long story short, she didn't, again, history there, she didn't say, come and see me, but she was confused. She was like, I don't understand. Why do you want to do this now? Like, why, etc. Like, she was really there, but how she was trying to show me was from more like the caring side. Again, I come to realize, though, it was for me to see her differently. So these weren't even about just the temptation to have sex. These were about the temptation to get into a relationship with these people because now I'm a new person. I wasn't tempted, but for some reason in them, what they saw, you know what I mean, was if anything, someone they always wanted. And by the way, even if sex was a struggle at that point, because of that situation, those situations, it would have been even easier to do it with those women. And I guarantee you, and I'm going to say it again, there would have been pregnancies, there would have been all different types of things, because now I'm involved. Now I've gone back to that old lifestyle, pretending that I'm not that person anymore. But now, eventually, neither of them I wanted to marry, so then at what point am I then going to say, oh yeah, I don't want to do this anymore? You know what I'm going to hear? See what I mean about you Christian men and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. What can I do? I just blame myself, right? This is why I had to be like, I need to be careful out here. Because it's very easy to fall back and, what's the word I'm looking for? Compromise. Compromise and make yourself feel comfortable, like it's not that deep, like it's okay. I need to shut the door. I don't know if you can hear the washing machine. But yeah, so I just said to myself, yeah, and that's only free. I can give you a lot more. Same thing happened after I got divorced. No one knew I was divorced, but all of a sudden, things start happening. Like, see, this life, you have to be careful, but it starts with the discipline that you are exercising yourself. And that's what shocks those ladies, because I never exercised that before, at least not with them. But to be that new person is what really made them stand up and think, rah, okay, Jason actually means business. And yes, all three of them stopped talking to me because they took offense.
Bro. And I think that's a key thing what you just kind of shared, right? Which is, and someone's even put in the chat as well, like the moment that you are looking to get to breakthrough is the moment that you're starting to see some of these things happen. And sometimes the breakthrough is just a transition of your mindset. You know, I remember myself, at a time when I finally, when I was like, all right, God, listen, we're not doing this sex thing no more, blood. Yeah. When I finally said that, bro, the warfare that I began to encounter, people are just popping up, bro. Women are, and that's when you know the enemy is sending people, like, and I say sending, maybe I shouldn't say sending people because your energy is carrying over. You haven't fully transitioned yet, but you'll go, I started encountering certain things where it's like, maybe previously I would not have thought about it. I'd have just been like, oh, okay, this is something I'm going to do. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And because of the place I was probably frequenting, I remember I went to someone's birthday and the girl just said to me, I want you, honestly, with you. And we hardly knew each other. I didn't know her. And I was so bemused. I was like, I think when you're in a different, and this is what I'm saying about heart postures and change of position. I don't mean that as a pun, but when you change your position on the field and the way that you're looking at life, it changes the way that you look at scenarios. So in the past, if that situation where a woman came to me and said to me, I want to sleep with you, I'd have been like, game on, bet, let's go. When she said that, my first thought was, hey, seven from the enemy. Because what do you mean? Did you hear my prayer last week? Did you hear my prayer last month? Are you sent? You know what I mean? My thought process now, my how I'm looking at the situation changes. Now when I'm talking to people and I'm seeing, and you'll be surprised, like when, and maybe it comes to spiritual sensitivity as well. Some of the things that start to happen, you start to see people through a spiritual lens as well, right? I started seeing people's spirit. I started seeing the lady's spirit and what was behind the drive and motivation to want to sleep with me. I started seeing that now. I saw envy. I saw jealousy. I saw one of them was even weird. One of them was like, why? It was almost like a self disdain. It's almost like, why won't he sleep with me? What's wrong with me? They've internalized it. So then you start seeing these things, and you're like, whoa, this thing that people are sleeping with you, they're not even sleeping with you because of you, They have their own motivations, bro. So you start realizing all of these things as you start to shift your position on the field, on the battlefield, and you start to see with a more eagle-eyed. You start to see things from a more strategic, more elevated perspective, more spiritual perspective. And then you start realizing these things are actually, I won't even say scary. They're just things you have to start now looking at it from a different perspective, a different lens. Do you get what I'm saying to you? And so, the key thing here is, again, because we're coming back to this, a question of obviously, I'm sleeping with somebody and I can't stop it in this essence, is that you start to look at how many forms lust can actually take. So lust in itself doesn't just take on one form. Lust comes with envy. Sometimes lust comes with fear. Lust comes with a spirit of rejection. Lust comes with with jealousy. Like there are so many things that attach itself with lust that when it comes to collect you, it is not lust itself on its own. That's what I'm saying, that even some of the interactions you start to realize as you elevate, you start to look at it and go, it's not even that you want to sleep with me. You got some pains in your darling. It's not me you want. You want to soothe the pain and you want to use me to soothe the pain. And you know what I mean? And now you're even looking going, that's pain for you. You know what I'm saying to you? Or somebody says, it happened to me this weekend, bro. I can't lie to you. Someone just said the wildest thing to me. And I was like, when they said it, and I was just looking at them, I said, nah. Not because they're not a beautiful gal, not because they're not fine, not because I don't find them attractive, but I just said, nah, I don't need to be in that space anymore. I don't need to do those things anymore. It's no longer beneficial to where I'm going and what I'm building. It becomes a distraction. It doesn't become something that aids me anymore. And I think that one of the biggest things that robs you of is your sight. It is your spiritual sight to see ahead spiritually. Your foresight begins to be effective because you've been doing foreplays. That is the problem. You understand what I'm saying to you, right? So because of that particular behavior, you're now not seeing spiritually ahead of you. And see, and the Bible says, pride cometh before the fall. The pride here is that one believes that they are stronger, better, more knowing, more understanding than God himself. So when you engage in some of these behaviors, that's where it puts you into that position. Oh God, I know more about my life than you do. Don't worry about it. I can handle it. I don't need you. So then you go into that space and you can't see the pitfalls coming before you. You know, and before you know it, you've fallen into something that you're like, why, God? Why did I fall into this? And it's because the sex that you've been doing before then is blinding you. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about, maybe because it might be more specific now to some couples who are maybe having that issue. It might be very, very difficult for them, and you know, maybe what they can do or what they should do, you know, in this scenario. Because I think some people probably might listen to this, might not type, might not say anything, but they are feeling it some way in that particular space as well. So and I've been in that space, so I know what it looks like and what it feels like. It's tough, you know. You're doing things you should be doing. So maybe we can discuss that to kind of help the people then there as well, Jay.
Definitely, bro. I mean, the first thing I'll say is don't be afraid to even discuss it. Don't run from it. Don't run from it. Because at the end of the day, the feelings to want to do it, they're natural. They're from God, right? So I'm not the type of person that even suggests to people to pray that away. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, this is something natural from God. You have to be careful, because if that goes, there's no guarantee it's coming in marriage. And there's lots of people who are suffering with that right now. So for me, the first point is to discuss it, pull it out in the open. This is how I'm feeling, because you both need that buy-in. You both need that agreement to do what comes next, which is, all right, let's create those boundaries together so that we are not in places where we can do it. It's as simple as that. You're going to have that feeling. You're going to want to do it. You know, like, if things are progressing the way that they are, you find each other attractive. Obviously, me and Kojo were both in agreement. Listen, people don't entertain people who don't find you attractive just so they can be in a relationship or be married. I don't care what no one says. It's not happening, right? But in this scenario, you do. You look at that person, you say, wow, this is exactly what I want. The temptation is there. But remember what you're working towards. Like, real talk. And it's not to say you won't fall at times, but at least not let it become a lifestyle. Let not it become normal. This is what you're doing every time you meet up. This is what you're planning every time you meet up, as if you're having a different type of relationship. Because there's so many people, I know it's not going to be for everyone, but if you want to make that choice, there's so many people who say the moment we took that off the table, all of a sudden our relationship got better. All of a sudden my own relationship with God got better. There was clarity, there was strength, there was understanding. There's lots of people who say, do you know what, I'm thankful we took that off the table early, because now going through what we're going through, it would be a struggle. So we've been able to live our lives with, you know, understanding that we can actually do this. But as we said earlier, understand why you're doing it in the first place. Is it just about physical attraction, wanting to get some pleasure, or is there more behind it? So I remember I was with my first actually partner when I gave my life to Christ. One of the questions I had to ask her is, because she was starting an argument, she was doing all sorts, you know, all that type of stuff, and I had to say, are you sexually frustrated? I had to be direct, because the lifestyle, this was her first relationship in Christ too. The lifestyle before that was not anything of the sort, right? It was the complete opposite. So we had to have a real practical conversation about, how do you feel though? Because I know your traumas, I know your background, I know what this means for you. How are you coping? Like, generally, don't feel no shame to come and say whatever. No, like, let's be open and honest, because ultimately that driver, right, is gonna grow. And trust me, unless it's dealt with, it's gonna get to the destination. And I gave this story a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't add this context to it. And you know what happened? She broke up with me to go back to her ex that she ran away from in the first place, to go and do that. Once that was done, she then came back and said, do you know what? That's not where I want to be. After you went to go and satisfy yourself, am I mad? Now you want to come back? But this is what happens. This is what happens. And the reason why I bring that up is to acknowledge how, what's the word? How powerful sex is, right? the need to have it, think about what that does to you. That changes your mind in the moment. That makes you consider things you should not be considering at all. Like, think about that pull, think about that drive. So if you think that sex doesn't influence you, it doesn't change what you're doing, I would say wake up a bit, because in that moment we know how we are. We know how much our boundaries lessen, etc. So just understand, like, first of all, where you're coming from when it comes to sex, but also what it means for you, and therefore what you're gonna do for each other moving forward. There's got to be moments where one is going to be stronger than another. Like I said, there's got to be moments where you're both strong. There's got to be moments where you're both weak. But acknowledge these things, accept these things. These things do happen. But ultimately, just creating those boundaries so you're not in those positions. How extreme you take that is up to you. You know, I know couples who say no kissing before before the wedding. I know couples who never met. In fact, everywhere was public they met before they got married. Do you know what I mean? This is the extreme case for people. I know couples who didn't need to do that. Couples who still gone on holiday, things haven't happened. You know, I'm not saying go and do that, but it depends on you and what you are capable of doing, and the type of person you're with. So yeah, just have a conversation first of all, start from there. What do you think, bro?
Yeah, bro. I think everyone has to know what their limits are in that space as well. I say the first thing I would say to anybody in that space is get the praying. Get the praying, get the fasting. Okay, get the praying, get the fasting, because you know what's interesting is, and I realize that a lot of our relationships ended the moment I fasted and prayed. They just ended. They came to the moment we stopped the sex is the moment that the relationship was coming to an end. The moment I got into fast and pray, the moment the Lord was like, yeah, all right, we've had enough. Fast and pray now. And as soon as I got to that space, relationship was done within a month. It was done. And it's, again, of course, I'm not saying that's for everybody's relationship. What I'm saying in that instance is everybody needs to know themselves. So I think one of the most important things is, and I think for us as men, I want to say this, you don't want to rely on a woman to have the discipline that you should have. Right? I'm not saying that she shouldn't have discipline. I'm saying she should, but I'm saying to you as a man, you want to have the discipline that you need to have. And here's why I'm going to tell you why you need to have discipline. So if you're in a situation right now, if any man or woman in there, here's what, as a man, here I'm going to tell you what to do. Number one, set some rules and boundaries for yourself and stick to it. Because if this goes south, do you know who they're going to blame? Your ass. Just like Boaz. Okay? So they're going to blame you for this going south. Right? So the responsibility is going to be on you. So the first thing you have to do is you have to set a precedence of this is the boundary, this is what we're doing. Number one, and let me take the positive of doing this. I'm speaking for the ladies, for the, I'll tell you what's going to happen. The moment you decide to stick to boundaries, she now wonders what kind of man has she got that can now stick to boundaries. A man that can say no. She's confused. Maybe she doesn't even want to sleep with you, but she now wants to test it to make sure. Are you sure that this is what you're saying? She wants to test it to make sure that you really are who you say you are. You know what I'm saying to you, right? So why is she doing that? Because she wants to make sure that you're really leading as you're saying you're leading. So the aspect of it is that when you step into that place, of you first and foremost saying, okay, we're going to fast, we're going to pray, and then we're going to set boundaries, and we're going to set what we can and can't do, right? And make sure we're really sticking to it. What ends up happening is a relationship begins to formulate guidelines. And when that begins to happen, you start to realize you have to force yourself to focus on other things, spiritually and emotionally, financially, right? There's a time and a season for everything under the sun. So if you're in this position already, I was in this position a couple of years back. And I remember, fam, the trouble is because the weakness for me is if you're in the same room as me and then we're staying over, it might not be the first time and it might not be the second time, but I can guarantee probably by the fourth, fifth time it's going to happen. So what's happening is that once you start compromising on those boundaries, it starts to slip and slide. So keep that boundary. And I love what you said about maybe in public, and minimize the amount of time that you're going to spend in private quarters. I didn't say alone. I think when people say they're not going to chill with each other alone at all, I'm like, when you have a conversation, you've got to be able to chill alone. But I'm saying in the fact that when you're doing that in private quarters, like your house, your bedroom, this might not be the best choice. So I would say start putting those guidelines in. Okay, you know what? We ain't going to chill in my room, in my house, by myself, me and you, what I'm saying, for extended periods of time, because we know that as soon as you stay over, it gets long. We might put that in place. And then the next thing is, like I said, fast and pray. Start the fasting and start the praying. Then after that, I think the next thing is you should be reading the word. The word should be potent, should be read. Y'all should be having Bible studies together. Okay? So that you can start really transforming the mind. Yeah, okay, because it's difficult for fasting, praying, the word to be effective when you're still, out here in these streets together. So that's another aspect I would say. And I just think to ourselves also as well, really have a conversation with your partner in terms of what you're trying to build. What is it that you envisage for your life and your future, and have that conversation. Because once you have that conversation, you can really align it to say, what is it you're looking to do? Do you know that there is for people who genuinely love the Lord, who genuinely want to please the Lord, do you know that when you enter into sex before the time is happening, that resentment is built on both sides? Both parties start resenting the parties. Like, why do we keep doing this? I know I like it, but at the same time, I know I'm displeasing the Lord. The other person's looking at the person, why can't you be strong? The other person's looking at, why can't you stop being this? And then before you know it, you've turned on each other.
Yeah.
And it's no longer about you're now not even fighting about the sex. It's the fact you're fighting about other things, right? So for me, just keep it simple. It is boundaries. It is fasting and praying. It's reading the word to get yourself back on track. I'm not saying fast forever. I'm saying fast and pray to get yourself back on track. Hear what the Lord is saying. Also, I'll be asking you to be praying whether this relationship is the one for you. Is this the one that God sent you to? Or is this somebody that has been sent to distract you? Or have you been sent to each other to distract each other? Do you get what I'm saying to you? Because it's not to say that someone else is. You can both be a distraction for each other. So you should probably start praying to ask the Lord, is even this the right relationship I should be in? That I'm here doing this thing. So again, those things are what I would say. And I think for outside of those things, I think the why is really important, right? The why part for me is this. I want to take, look, you see how you flexed it? I know you didn't flex it that way, but it's a flex to be able to say, in between the ex and the now wife, there's no one that can say they slept with them. But not just that I was disciplined enough to say no. I was disciplined enough to not fall into the trap of doing those behaviors, so that when I now come into my marriage, I know that it's just me and that person. And I think that in itself is a flex, but it also really impacts the relationship that you can build. Because now when I'm focused on you, I'm focused on building that emotional connection. I'm focused on building on who is this woman that's in front of me or this man that's in front of me? Who actually are they? Like what are they about? What are they actually like? You know what I'm saying to you? I can now focus on those things instead of just focusing on, how sexy you look and how it's nice when you're in my room and then we did it. Instead of focusing, I can focus really on those things that are really going to build a foundation for a strong relationship. And I think the final thing I'll add to that is, in my head, how I look at things is, what I did not defeat in the single season will surely come and meet me in the marriage. So if I find myself on a slippery slope of fornication before the marriage, my only thought process is, I'm going to have to face this again. My natural inclination of my mind of how it leads me to think is, it's about to come round again. Either when she gets pregnant, you can't have sex for a while, I'm going to have to wait. Either she maybe has hormone issues, I can't have sex, I'm going to have to wait for a while. Something is going to happen that's going to force me back into that position where I cannot have sex when I want to have sex. And then what do I do if I have not trained that position? I know I said it earlier on, but that's how I think about things in that space. So it's not even about being a flex. It's about forcing the discipline so that when you get there, you're not now being thrust left and right, and you're not sure how to handle those particular seasons. Because those seasons will come, and you want to make sure that you're ready for that.
Yeah, I love that, bro. It's cause yeah, it's going to happen, whether you like it or not, and you're gonna show yourself who you really are in a moment. So for me, I don't know all of this. Everyone's gonna know, but I'll talk from the practical sense of what God has created when it comes to sex, right, and what it does to the human body.
Mm.
Dopamine. I'm reading off here. So, acts as the brain's reward and motivation chemical. Oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone. It surges during climax to foster emotional attachment, trust, closeness. Endorphins serves as the body's natural painkiller and mood boosters. Euphoria and physical ease. Prolactin, released right after an orgasm. This hormone signals satisfaction and promotes drowsiness or sleep, rest. Serotonin rises following a climax, helping to regulate mood and induce deep relaxation. Norepinephrine, I don't know how you say it, and adrenaline. Obviously, heart rate, excitement, energizing the body. Then you got GABA, rises post-orgasm to calm the nervous system down and contribute to a peaceful, relaxed state. Then you've got vasopressin, works alongside oxytocin to deepen emotional bonding and protective behaviors. Let me ask you a question, bro. You ever been in a toxic relationship that is just stressing, it's just draining you, you're thinking, why are you here? But it's the sex that keeps bringing you back.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of the reason why. It's not just because it's pleasurable, it's because how the body is wired, it makes you feel, it makes you see things differently. So therefore, if you lead by this, or is this something that you easily do? Like when my bros talks about clarity, the body naturally changes when it comes to it. It naturally just does things that is not going to happen when you're just walking around. That's not going to happen just because of the state of the heart or the state of the mind. These things influence the mind, influence the heart. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to just help you. They're designed to help you just be more happier and live life. And this is why exercising discipline is key. Because sometimes we can trick ourselves into a position that we should never be in at all. Like protective behaviors, 100%. Like protect yourself. If you know what God has designed, protect yourself from it. So this is the aspect I want to talk about, that one of the reasons why some people can't stop, and trust me, we understand because we've been there, is because the body is doing what the body does, especially if you've been starved from it. And it's going to say, I want more, I want more, I want more. And it becomes increasingly harder. Trust me, I was in a situation, okay, with that girl who I was coming to Christ with. When I gave my life to Christ, we didn't stop. Except like, the volume went up more. We wasn't even together at the time. We had broken up. But the volumes, when it came to specs, kind of got turned up more. The only way I could pull myself, obviously things happened during that time. I've talked about it before. If we put two and two together, great. But the only way I was able to stop is literally by pulling myself away. And I was like, why does it feel like this? Like, why does it feel like I'm just tearing myself away from something? I know I don't want to be with her. I know we're not going to get married. I don't even like her. The last thing I need to do is to kind of put an end to this bedroom behavior that we're doing. Why does it feel like this? It feels heavy. It feels like because my body had gotten used to the pleasure, what I was feeling from it. So this is why, because I was now putting my body in denial, and my body didn't like that at all. So this is where we have to be careful, because that means I was bonding myself or continuously bonding myself with someone who should never have been in my life at that particular stage. And it would have been easy to go back, by the way. It would have been so easy to go back, but this is where the discipline comes into it, because again, I knew if I went back, what was going to be at store.
And I guess that rounds up to the last part of the conversation, which is that you said something really important. You said about how you had to tear yourself away. And I think those words are very powerful, because the reason why there is a necessary tear away is because two has become one. And that's what sex in essence is built to do. It is built to produce attachment to the person that you're with, which is why we're saying that when the relationship is built upon an attachment of sex, that once you take the sex away, you start to realize you've got no attachment. And then when you have a relationship that's built upon emotional connection, and you have sex, it becomes so much more painful when you have to split away. So again, even though you may have built a good emotional connection, if that person wasn't the right person for you, then you add sex on top of it, it really does kill to tear it away from that person, right? There are so many men and women who will say, they weren't bad for me, and it hurts so much to want to even leave that person because they weren't necessarily bad for me. They just wasn't the right person for me, right? And so you start to realize that sex becomes a covenant because two are becoming one. They're joining themselves together. It's why the Bible talks about, that the husband and wife, they cleave together, right? And so you're meant to leave your family. That's the original tearing. You leave the family, and then you reattach to the woman to create a new attachment, a new family, a new bloodline also to say, right? And so in that space, when you then have sex with somebody, in essence, you're kind of creating that covenant all over again, right? That's why the Bible says when he entered her, he knew her. And it's like, someone might say, as a statement, you have many wives by sleeping with many people, right? Or many husbands by sleeping with many people. In essence, what it just means is the covenants are being created in that space. And if you look at this, and maybe we can talk about this next week, how sex is also described as in the Bible, you realize that it actually compares it with worship. So you see that maybe Israel, you have plowed with the enemy. You have been a cheating, adulterous wife to me. You've been, you know what I mean? So he describes worship and giving worship away as sex, as the intimacy. So this then becomes something that you have to really be aware of, that sex now becomes this form of worship. And so then the question is, at what altar and with whom do you serve this worship? Who do you give this worship to? If we're to give it to glory to God, there's a way to come to worship. And if the worship is being done in the wrong order, the wrong place, the wrong timing, all that stuff, right? Then at this point in time, then it now becomes ill-effective to what it's meant to be, And so that is a very important aspect. But yeah, the vasopressin is very important because I was watching a video about this, and it's like vasopressin, especially in men, actually increases the longer that you like someone and you're not having sex with them.
Wow.
So it's actually a necessity to keep that man on the rope, so to say, right? So vasopressin actually increases. It's what makes us want to commit. So in that space, when sex is now denied or it's been held back and the connection is being built, there's a refrain period where it begins to build. So that's what makes then the man want to commit. But again, that is not a surefire way to go and choose somebody. They should still be looking at their other behaviors because they might be mad and they might just be horny and they just want to wait. They might not like you like that. But vasopressin is actually a part of that as well. So maybe we could talk about that next week because actually that's a very important thing.
That's a conversation we don't usually have. So I like that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link for the podcast about it. There was a very big podcast the lady was talking about it. And I was like, oh, wow. The vasopressin, that's what it does. So when you mentioned it, it made sense. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, big things. Yeah. But let me let you round up. You're the deacon here, man. You round up well. I'll let you round up because we've gone past an hour, so you can round up today's subject.
Always goes so quick, but
I know.
Yeah, look, we fully understand this happens, and we understand the power behind it. Because trust me, when you're captured, you're really captured, and it's hard to pull yourself away. It's hard to kind of see sense. I've met people who say one thing before, like when they're single, but meet someone, and all of a sudden, everything they're now saying is the opposite because it feels great, it feels nice, it feels like it's supposed to be. All of these things, I'm like, what great. We would actually prefer you have a great time than have a horrible time. Because the horrible time stays with you, right? The horrible time will change you. It can make you think all different types of things. However, what we would ask people to see beyond just the good time and the fun you're having and actually understand. I know it's not going to apply to everyone, but how much of this is taking away from you actually building the type of relationship that you want? Yes, with God, with that person, but most importantly, with yourself. for a lot of us, we realize it's taking a lot or everything, which is why when you have people who step back from it and start reevaluating their lives, start looking at different things, all of a sudden they start to grow. All of a sudden they start to become better people. All of a sudden they start to heal, even from their traumas. All of a sudden they can be better for the people that they're with, their partners. And I say that because we have friends, right, who cheated on every partner they had. Whenever there was an argument, etc., it wasn't just emotional, but it was physical as well. And they had to really seek counseling as to why they do that, right? It was more than just the physical action of sex, but there's something emotional going on. But some of those people never actually took the time to step away from that in singleness. Hence why they still had to deal with that with their relationship, or they still had to deal with that in marriage, right? So this is where don't be afraid to take that step back and actually understand. Especially if you're a certain age, I don't have to do what everyone else is doing, all my friends. Talk about the younger generation here. I don't have to do that. Let me reevaluate, because some of these stories, some of these things that people are coming with, I don't need that. Yeah, you don't. You don't. We may have got out. Doesn't mean you will. Doesn't mean things will go as smoothly, or doesn't mean, things are wild with us, but your story might be even worse. You just don't know. And the next bit I'll say is, when you're leading with that, you start to realize, because your decision making is skewed, you start to put yourself in situations that you don't need. You start to connect with people you don't need to connect with. This is what it does. Be very careful about how we operate. But I'm going to say something that we haven't actually talked about, actually. Don't condemn yourself. Don't just think because you have slipped up or this has happened that you're the worst person in the world. God doesn't love you. You're this and that. It happens, especially to women, just because of the way women are taught about sex and sex as a sin when it comes to when it comes to the body of Christ and things like that. Just stay away from that, because we could all fall in different ways. Sex is just one of the ways. Right, sex isn't more important than all the other ways that we can fall, right? So stay away from condemning yourself and just acknowledge you're a human being and just continue to work on the things that you're working on. But one thing I'll say is, if you want someone, I know we saw it in the chat as well, if you want someone, what's happening, Gus? If you want someone who is on the same wavelength as you, just wait for that person, don't compromise. Trust me, there's going to be people come along who generally you're going to like, you're going to feel, ooh, okay, should I? It's not worth it. Okay, there's a reason why you started in the first place, so continue. So yeah, man, that's me, man. That's me, bro.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that, brother. As always, a great conversation, and I think we touched on some key things, and there's some good questions that I think some people asking me on Insta. So I definitely think a part 2 would be good to break down, because someone asked the question of, what do you do if your partner still wants sex and you don't want sex anymore in a relationship? And I think that's a very good.
I had to run.
You know what I mean? And that we'll discuss that next week. But that's a very great question to ask, because some people do get in that situation. Now you've heard us say this, and you go and tell your partner, hey, I think we should stop. There are many people that go in this situation, and that's why I said you start to realize who are you supposed to be with and who you're not supposed to be with, because that conversation comes up. It will sort the sheep from the goats. So we'll tune in next week when we have this conversation. We'll go into that particular topic as well. All right. Well, listen, if you're here, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week to discuss further topic around this area of sex before marriage and relationships. And so hopefully you guys will have enjoyed it. I can see the comments have been on Insta on here as well. I can see that many people have been engaged. It is a real topic that we go through, and so we will be discussing this as a part 2 next week. So make sure you tune in again once more as we discuss this wonderful topic. Don't do anything you shouldn't do, and if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed and following the channels. Jay, let them know your channel before we go.
Do you know what? I'm so bad at it, I don't even use it, but it should be Jay Anderson King. That's where it should be. Jay Anderson King is the ministry channel. Listen, give me a bit of time. I promise I want to start posting, doing videos, going back to what I used to do a couple of years ago. Just life has been a chokehold. But also, I'm enjoying building something separate with Kojo as well. People know what we're doing on TikTok. But this is where you can find me. My Instagram is also J Anderson King. You see more of this stuff that we're doing on there as well. Um, Kojo's my brother, man. Everyone says that we think alike, we talk alike, we have the same backgrounds. It's
Mm-hmm.
scary. It's real scary. And yes, we're both Ghanaian as well. Yeah, so we're just enjoying what the Lord is doing, honestly, man. But reach out to us if you have questions, as you have done. Kojo does coaching as well for those. So yeah, please damage his DMs if coaching requests, right? Yes, he does charge, but the fee that he charges is way below what he should do. Trust me, he's one of the best in this. So come on, utilize it.
Appreciate it, bro. And thank you for reminding us actually because we have a group chat. So those of you who are here, if you want to be part of the group chat that we just have conversations about relationships and just have a bit of fun, network with people, like-minded people. So I know I've got a lot of Americans on this side of things, but we do have a group chat. So if you want to join it, you want to be a part of it, you can leave a comment down below in the comment section, or you can send me an DM on Insta if you have me on there. Or leave, like I said, just leave a comment. It might be the easiest thing to do, and we can send you the link to add you to the group chat as well. All right, so because we want to grow a community where we can have great conversations and be able to, be able to network and just have like-minded people in your circle, right? So if you're interested in that, by all means, leave a comment down below in the comment section, and we'll definitely send you a link to join the WhatsApp group in that space. Well, look, our time has gone, and we appreciate everybody that's been here today. It's been good, and we've enjoyed. Like I said, the numbers that have obviously hit us on Insta and on here, great numbers. So I love that as well. And yeah, we're moving quite nicely along in that space as well. So thank you very much, Jay. It's a pleasure to do this with you as well. And we'll be back next week. I can see some people saying want to be part of the group chat. Okay, fantastic. Well, if you have me on Instagram or Jay on Instagram, just if you just follow me on Little Black Book 91 Instagram, just send me a DM and I'll send you a link, or leave a comment on the video, and then I'll send you a link for the WhatsApp group as well. Okay. All right, folks. It is our time. We got to go. Okay, we got to go. We will see you again next week for another installation of this conversation, part 2, and we will go deeper again into this conversation. For those of you who are going through something right now, don't feel condemned, but it's time to run. I appreciate you. Stay locked and loaded. We'll